guys, welcome to Chef Grace's place. Today we have a special guest. His name's Lewis. Channel's name is Lewis Cooks. And we kind of do some ASMR stuff, but I think he just might be monotone like me. And which it works out. We finally have a niche now. but but he also does, you're British, but you're also Japanese, so you
Yes.
kind of both, which is
Yeah.
cool.
I'm a half-half, so my mum's Japanese and my dad's British.
And my cousins are half American, half Japanese, so I was like, oh,
Okay.
surprise me them. but but I really like how you're. I mean, you're new to YouTube. You only have like 60 something subscribers right now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you gotta start somewhere, and I think you're gonna go somewhere. I like your channel. You have a
Thanks.
good personality, and you're really good at explaining things. And I think one of the things when it comes to like non-Asian people trying to figure
Mm.
out Asian food
Yeah.
is it can be a lot very intimidating with the different spices and all that other stuff. So I think if you've never tried to make Japanese food before, your channel is an excellent resource for that. So
I think that was one of the aims for the channel, being half-half. I always kind of looked as where I guess belonged in some sense. So sometimes I would feel like England was my home. Sometimes it would be Japan. But then I realized that I could just bridge the gap, and that's where I guess like this kind of cooking channel is to help people maybe from England who don't necessarily know about specific like Japanese products or Japanese cooking, and essentially just making that easier. So you're absolutely right. That's kind of one of the reasons why I've set up this channel.
So you say you're a student in your channel. What do you study?
So I've just recently graduated, but I studied international relations and Japanese. So more about like global politics and things like that. And
By university?
Yes, at the University of Sussex.
So you're a freshman?
Sorry?
So you're a freshman?
No, I've just graduated.
Oh, you just graduated from university.
Yeah.
You look really young.
It's the Japanese in me. That's what it is.
That's good. So yeah, you keep talking about student cooking. I'm like, I don't know any students that aren't culinary students that are cooking like that.
Yeah. I think I've always had an interest in food. With my background, we moved around a lot when I was younger, and I've been lucky enough to live in some like amazing places such as India, Bangladesh, and Japan, Lithuania, and all of these, I guess, had an impact on me where wherever the country that I was living in, if you go to someone, a national of that country, and they serve some food, and they're so excited to for you to try that specific food, and once you try it and you actually love it, then the brightness and happiness that comes off their face is just, I think, priceless. And it's just so, I think it's just so beautiful, and that's why from a young age I've always been interested in food, because that connection between food across cultures is, well, I haven't seen it anywhere else really, and I think it's really nice.
Yeah, and even the face you make when you're trying it, they love it. Well, depending what face it
exactly,
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what sparked your interest in cooking as a kid? How long have you been cooking?
I think I've always been cooking from a young age. Like when I was about 5 or 6, we'd make me and my mum would make Japanese fried chicken, and we'd make like gyozas, like dumplings, and we'd like make the wrappers, like do the folds as a kid, and that was always, I guess, rooted in my childhood. And my dad has a ridiculous amount of cookbooks, like thousands in his house, that like I can't even explain why he has them, but there's just so many. So if there was any reason for me to get bored, like kind of being at home, then I'd take one of those cookbooks and just have a read through. And I think that influenced me and kind of led me down this path of wanting to cook.
Yeah, I have a giant cookbook collection, and in the past maybe 3 years, I've moved like a lot.
Yeah.
And so we moved. I'm in Florida now, and we moved to the apartment we're in now. And my boyfriend was like, "If we move again, you're carrying all of the cookbooks by yourself." Because it was like crates, like at least 10 crates of cookbooks. But I love cookbooks. I can't actually, Japanese is on my list of cookbooks.
Yeah, it's a great cookbook. Yeah, it's a great starter one for, because it's just broken down so easily, and I think especially the way like Tim, it has like measures of difficulty on kind of the specific recipes, which is really nice. But yeah, my dad, who's just moved to Indonesia, he took some of his stuff from Bangladesh, but he left a lot of his heavy baggage sent to England, to his house in the UK. So we kind of unloaded that a couple of days ago, and there was probably about 15, 16 boxes of books that arrived from Bangladesh, and we just spent a good couple of hours trying to get that into storage. Just shows that like the ridiculous amount of cookbooks that he has. But yeah, I think they're definitely worth it, and it's always learning about new cultures in a way with those cookbooks.
It's my favorite way to learn about new cultures, you know?
Yeah.
So you're studying, or you graduated with, sorry, you said not communications.
International relations.
International relations.
Yeah.
So do you plan on using your cooking in your international relations? What's the next step in that?
I think as most graduates feel like you're not really sure of what you want to do in life. I guess that's another reason why this YouTube channel's appeared, and it's something that it's just a creative avenue that kind of what someone can go down if they're really into cooking. And I've always been quite a creative person, not like analytical person. So I think with cooking, until I figure out what I want to do, this is, I guess, a nice medium. But with the degree itself, food waste was a big issue that we talked about, and that's something that I'm quite interested in and wanting to solve. So I think in line with my cooking and kind of the issue of food waste, something that kind of blends the two together would be probably the ideal career and life.
Let's talk a little bit about food waste. So that's interesting that you would talk about that in international relations. What aspect of food waste did you study?
It was everything from the kind of the ground up, so from the farmers and how the supply chain works, and kind of the nature of free markets essentially allows for greater amount of food waste because there isn't as much regulation on like kind of restricting the amount of food that's being produced. That's why we have massive like monocultures and things like that. And especially in Europe as well, there's like certain restrictions on how, the cosmetic of the product, of how a specific food's meant to look, or like the curvature of like a banana or something. If it's straight, then it's not used, and things like that. I think I've just gone off on a tangent and forgotten what the question was.
I do that all the time. We were talking about food waste. I was just wondering what specifically
what
focused on?
specific? Yeah. So my dissertation focused kind of the impact of free markets on food waste, and there was a specific module titled "The Food in Global Politics," and it kind of gave it was a module for only one term, so it wasn't my whole degree, unfortunately, but it just focused on everything that was affecting the issue of food waste.
So if you had a magic wand, what would you do to fix the problem? Or start
Where would I start?
Sounds like a huge problem.
It is. So about between 30 and 50% of it is in the household. So I'll try and get some sort of device that would, or just a compost bin or something for every single person in the household, or trying to get people into the idea of not seeing specific products as waste, but rather what can I use as another meal, like peels and cores and stuff like that. But I think just
like stock.
Yes, like stock. Yes, like vegetable stock, or if you have chicken carcass.
That's one thing that I think is when you go to culinary school, it's pretty much French, right?
Okay.
So what it like mirepoix and like bones are basically like what you put in stock. So mirepoix would be carrots, onions, celery, and then whatever bones. And then like obviously like season like spices and herbs and shit. But
sure.
What would the basis be for Japanese stock?
Japanese stock. So it would be dashi, which is used in pretty much every single, not every single, but most noodle dishes, soups. You'll find it in most Japanese cooking, and it's essentially made of kombu, which is dried seaweed, and you let that simmer for about 15 minutes, and then you put some bonito flakes in, or katsuobushi, and let that steep for about another 20 minutes, and then you have that specific stock. And it's a really simple stock. It doesn't require any bones, but that's the basis for miso soup, the stuff they use for ramen. But obviously with ramen it'd be more complicated. You'd add chicken bones or like pig's feet, things like that.
There's a lot of mushrooms too, right?
Yeah, a lot of shiitake mushrooms. Yeah.
In the stock. I mean, so one time I made ramen from the Momofuku cookbook.
Oh yeah, this one right here.
Yep, that one right there.
Yeah.
And so I worked like making the broth for ramen is like a process,
Yeah.
And so I finally made it, and like I had my friends over for dinner, and we're all eating the ramen. And my mom, like most moms, like even when I'm in the kitchen, she's trying to clean like the cutting board I'm chopping on. And I'm like, give me a break, like go away.
Yeah.
So I noticed she starts like cleaning in the kitchen, and I'm just kind of like, you know what I mean? So I didn't I was like, I'm not dealing with that right now. Like I'll go in there in a second. So then I hear like something getting dumped, and I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
And so I go in there, and she just dumped my ramen broth down the sink and said,
oh no.
I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, what? This is dirty water. I don't know. Like, what do you do? I was like, oh no. My God.
How long had it been brewing for?
I started like the day before in the morning, like making it. Like
that's so painful.
Like, and and also
What is,
like where I lived, like I had to go like find those ingredients. Like they
yeah.
weren't at the like regular grocery store. I had to
Mm,
like go find the H Mart and stuff. Like he's half
yeah.
an hour away and whatnot. I was like, oh no. Oh, I was so mad. I was like, because then we were gonna go back for seconds, but that didn't happen. Oh my god, this is terrible.
What did you
But
do?
I couldn't do anything. I was just like, I think I was just like in shock at that point. I was just like, well, eh, there, yep, that's just how it goes.
Oh no.
But I was like, really, really, mom?
Yeah.
No, she still tries to clean while I'm cooking though. So that's
Like, get out of my space. I need to. Yeah.
so I forgot why. Oh, so we're talking about stock and food waste.
Yeah.
So one of the things I notice here in America, and it's not
Mm,
just like we can barely get recycling down. Like to get there's places in like New York, I feel like that are starting
mm,
to do compost stuff.
yeah.
Um, but then even going from like the tri-state area, which is
Mm,
New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, I don't know. Then you come down here and it's like my apartment complex like has a recycling bin, but
yeah.
like it gets filled up in like it's like one like trash can that you would have at like just one person's house for like an
Yeah.
entire apartment complex. And I'm like, but then there's a dumpster right next to it. So like that shit gets filled up and then everyone just throws everything else in the dumpster.
Yeah.
It's like not it just doesn't
I
make any sense.
I think if it makes you feel any better, the UK isn't that much better in kind of the way we recycle stuff because I lived in Brighton, which is considered during my time at university, um, and that's considered kind of the greenest city in the UK. I guess it would,
Really?
yeah. So it would be, is it Portland, Oregon? Is that area, is that meant to be really green? They're kind of really environmentally friendly, really
They're
ethical,
very
bunch of hipsters, that kind of
yeah, they're
stuff.
very hipstery. I'm not
Yeah,
sure if they're because there's also some other like Boston is known to have like a lot of like a green city, but Oregon is known to just be like Oregon and there's maybe like Seattle. They're just known to be green as in like a lot of greenery because they get so much rain.
oh, I see.
But
Okay, okay,
they're
bit of a
I mean
difference.
they're also they kind of they lean like very liberal.
Okay,
So they
sure.
do have, you know, it tends to be like the, in stereotypes, like the more liberal a place is, the
The
better recycling.
yeah,
So that's
the,
probably true.
yeah. That's what I mean with when I was living there in Brighton. The recycling and stuff wasn't it wasn't really there. It wasn't up to scratch, and I think that's partly down to the lack of education in that aspect. I kind of throughout the years we were living there, it was only until like my final year where I realized that you can't recycle like pizza boxes because of the oil on them, and that's something that like everyone thought, because it's cardboard, you assume that it is recycling and things like that. So it's just
Talking
a kind
about
of
the oil from the pizza?
yeah. So when you have your kind of your pizza box and then there's like grease on the top of the lid and stuff. So
Yeah.
that because of that specific grease, I think it contaminates the material, so you can't recycle that specific material anymore.
I didn't know that.
Which was completely unbeknown to me, and like I had no idea until someone told me. It's like, yeah, you can't recycle pizza boxes because they usually have grease on them. And I think it's just down to a lack of like, just people don't know like what they can and can't. We're not really taught that at school.
Well, I didn't know either that the plastic water bottle,
Mm.
like the ring that's on, like when you crack open the water bottle,
Yeah.
you're supposed to separate that off the water bottle when you
Yeah.
recycle because they're
I
two
didn't know that.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, I don't think anybody knows that. You ever look at a recycling bin, like all the rings are on the plastic bottles, and you think you're doing something good, you know? And then you
Yeah.
put the cap back on because you want to like keep the air out of it so you can put more bottles in there. So yeah, that. But also, I think we talk about like the consumer um, having 30 to 50% of the food waste or the
Mm.
recycling. Like they're more expensive, but
Yeah.
you can make plastics out of things that are biodegradable now,
Yeah.
which we couldn't do before. And
Mm.
it's like I feel like at some point the governments have to step in and be
Mm.
like, well, you can't use this plastic that never breaks down just because it's
Yeah.
cheap. You have to use the stuff that breaks down because our planet's going shit. Like
Yeah.
you know? And then we'll figure out ways to make and that's also would help so much with food waste because it's all
Mm.
made out of like banana peels and shit, you know?
Yeah. I think you're right about that too. Is that kind of policy change within government is essential, and that's where the education part would come in, where they would introduce kind of some sort of curriculum for younger kids to learn about those specific instances of how to recycle properly, or how to use food in a more efficient way, or how to spend less and reduce less at the same time, and things like that.
And I think when you frame it too instead of like a because a lot of people like we'll talk about food waste and we're
Mm.
interested in it because we're that's something we like. We like food, we like
Yeah.
the environment. But a lot of people like they don't got time for that.
Mm.
But everybody has time to like save money. So
Yeah,
if you frame
exactly.
it in that way of it, then I like when you make vegetable stock, like from your scraps, like
Mm.
if you go to the store, a quart of stock is like $4.
Yeah, exactly.
But I can
Whereas
make 10 gallons for nothing
yeah,
because I was just gonna throw that out.
exactly. And yeah, not many people. Maybe it's a time thing, like a time-consuming thing that people, because of convenience, like people can just do that and they don't have to think about it. But
Yeah, but I think the stock thing, like for me,
yeah,
it gives me like I guess like a sense of pride, but also like a sense of like, haha, I'm getting over on those assholes selling the stock for $4 a quart.
yeah, yeah,
Because
I see that.
it's like whenever I'm cutting stuff up or peeling vegetables, I just have like a little baggie that I put the bones in and the scraps in that I keep
Mm.
in my freezer. And then once those two bags are full, like the veg
Yeah,
and the bones, then I just throw them all in the pot, cover them with water, do the
yeah,
salt and the whatever. And sometimes I let it boil for like 2 days and
yeah. It's
use it.
very simple. You don't,
Yeah.
it's not something that has to be watched.
And
But
then
you
I'm
you
like,
mentioned you went to cooking school,
yeah,
correct? And
I
what was
did.
that like? Because I haven't been, so I was just interested in.
I got my bachelor's in the science of pastry arts.
Okay.
And for what I wanted to do, I think it was important that I went to school for it
Hmm.
because um, there's like the science of bread. Like this pastries are very like um, precise. Not all
Hmm.
of them, but you have to understand the technique. So I think it's important. But that said, I think everyone should go work in a kitchen before they
Mm.
try to go to culinary school, just
Mm.
because it's so, you want to make sure that's what you want to do,
Mm.
because it's not, how can I phrase it? It would have been worth it if it wasn't as expensive as it is. Let's put it that way. Because when I got out of my education, cost me like $180,000.
Wow.
And I'm very lucky that I call her my fairy godmother. And she's helping me with my student loans because I would never be able to afford that.
Sure.
But if you want a career in something you're passionate about, and then the education costs that much, and then you get out of, do you hear that car alarm? Because it's really loud.
Just a little bit.
So, but you get out of the you get out in debt.
Mm.
And then this was 2012, so they started me at $10 an hour. And I
Yeah.
have a bachelor's. Not only do I have a bachelor's degree, I like graduated top of my class. Like I was salutatorian of my associates and salutatorian of my
Oh,
bachelor's, and making $10 an hour.
yeah.
So it's like, because there's no like, I feel like restaurant workers just get the shit end of the deal, basically.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure. That's, yeah.
and every restaurant needs a chef, but they don't always need a pastry chef.
Hmm.
So it depends how complicated they're getting. So even in that too, like if there is a pastry chef, and there's like a team of pastry chefs, and there's
Mm.
one like head pastry, like, the head pastry chef, and that person probably gets paid, depending on like the operation, I would say an average like 70,000 to, like, if they got to three figures, it would probably
Mm.
be like a large hotel.
Yeah.
Um, and then everyone under them makes like $15 an hour.
Yeah, that's a really big contrast.
So, and it's like, but also being the head person sucks, because then you're there like 14 hours a day minimum. So you don't have
That's,
a
yeah, that's one thing I think a lot of people don't understand about the restaurant industry, maybe, is that, especially I found, because during my time at uni, I worked in kitchens and well, mainly Japanese restaurants, but there's almost like a lack of perspective from, like, you can tell when customers haven't worked in the restaurant industry, and just a lack of knowledge about it. When you work in the kitchen, it's long hours, and there's basically no life, or it's very hard to have something sustainable outside of work for, I think, a sustained period of time.
But also, it's like, I think in America, it's the third largest industry,
Mm.
maybe. In
I think
the
it's the same here.
And most people in the restaurant industry were living paycheck to paycheck, you know.
Mm.
So it's just like, if it's the third largest industry, that's like
Yeah.
the third, that's like a huge portion of the United States is living
Yeah.
paycheck to paycheck, because you don't want to pay more for your food, basically.
Mm.
We're the people on top. I mean, so many businesses closed during the pandemic because restaurants run on like really tight margins, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not saying that the people that own them are, fat cats and super rich, and maybe they
Yeah.
needed to maybe not take so much money out of the business, but
That's a whole other conversation.
that's a whole nother conversation. But they've even done studies on, like, throughout the years, the price of food,
Mm.
and then comparing that to the price of healthcare. right?
Yeah.
So as our food got cheaper, our healthcare got more expensive. People had to spend more money on their health. So if we, and not just for the workers,
Hmm.
because if you increase the pay, you have to work less hours, and
Yeah.
then you're not stressed to death and all that other stuff. But also the quality of the food
Mm.
going down was a huge factor of
Yeah.
that. The fast food and all that other crap.
Yeah.
Um, and
But then,
people eating at home.
yeah. No, I think with, yeah. Do you ever have like an urge of like wanting something like fast food? Like, oh, I could do with like a McDonald's, or I could do with like a Domino's. Because I sometimes get that craving.
3 o'clock
But
in the morning, man. Domino's when you're drunk, of course. But well, it depends. Like where I grew up, we actually had like probably the best pizza in the world. Like
okay, yeah.
so, but to me, like a real pizza, you know what I mean? Isn't really like fast food, but like Domino's is fast food. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I miss that a lot. But I find like a lot of times when I get fast food or something, like at this point, like I can make it better at home.
Yeah.
It tastes better.
Mm.
So even if it's bad for me, like I'd rather make the fried chicken at home because I know
Mm.
it's gonna be better than whatever like chicken tenders. And especially down here in Florida, everything is like a chain restaurant, like a
Oh,
box.
really?
Yeah. So there's a couple good, especially where I am.
Mm.
It's like more. It's just like more white people, so it's just like
More
terrible.
bland food.
But like if you go a little bit more south, you get more like Spanish, like
Mm.
Caribbean Spanish people. So you have a lot of good Cuban food, a lot of good, um, Dominican, Puerto Rican,
Mm.
like all
Lovely.
that kind of food, which I love. So
Mm.
tostones. But then also like my boyfriend's Dominican, so he can make me some tostones.
Don't need to leave.
Yeah,
Nice, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So but I'm sure finding good Japanese food in Brighton is probably hard, no?
Sorry, what was that? Sorry.
Finding good Japanese food in England. How's that?
Um, I would like Brighton. I think I was quite lucky because the restaurants, um, the restaurants I worked at were very good, and that was the reasons why I worked there. I think if it was just yeah, because of one of them had really good sushi, but another one called Bincho Yakitori, I doubt he'll ever see this, but he's like my very prominent father figure I look up to in the past, as a boss. But he did like I feel like Japanese food sometimes gets misrepresented as just like sushi and stuff, because like yakitori, which is like almost it's like barbecue food, and that was what that Japanese restaurant specialized in, and it was just outstanding. And it was, and that's another thing as well with Japanese food. That's a lot of the time it's simple but done to like perfection, and that's kind of one of the ideals in Japanese food. You don't have to make it super intricate and super detailed, but as long as the technique and the right ingredients are there, then the dish itself will be elevated, which I think is quite nice. But Brighton is quite good because it was one of the most diverse places in the country. So there was always a new cuisine, a new restaurant popping up, which was like a different cuisine. So there was a massive melting pot. So you could essentially get almost any type of cuisine that you were looking for or wanted to try. So I was
So
very
like,
lucky in that sense.
I went to Brighton like once. So I used to, before the pandemic started, I was a flight attendant
Okay.
which is strictly international. So
Mm.
um, we would stay. I think the area might also. We used to stay at this hotel called the Copthorne. I don't
Okay.
know if you've ever heard of it, but it's like the
Not
night.
sure.
It's like an old. I think it originated as like some kind of like fort, like farm thing, like really back in the day, like
Okay.
medieval times or whatever. But it it's kind of like I guess restored a little bit, but
Mm.
we would do flights into Gatwick, so it's very close to
Okay.
Gatwick.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Bright spot there.
and yeah, so it was just it was charming. Let's put it that way. But it was charming for the first like 2 nights you stayed there, and when you got stuck there for like a week, you'd be like, "Get me out of here!" So one of the closest place to go was like Brighton.
Mm.
Um, that was like a major city, but I
Mm.
went there for like a day because whenever people say Brighton, like I think of the beach, I guess.
Mm. Yeah.
So I was just like, well, it's cold. Like, I'd rather, spend the extra time to try to go into London. But
Mm.
yeah, you're saying like how diverse it was. I didn't think it was that diverse. I just felt like it was the beach. So I'm like kind of amazed that you're like talking about all this diversity, and I'm like, where? So is this like so obviously this is not by the beach then?
No, well, I mean, there it's Brighton is a massive student city as well. That's one thing. I don't know if you
Okay.
noticed. There's 4 universities in that city. But
I guess I didn't explore that much. We were focused on the beach, I guess. But
yeah, I think from everywhere, from like the students and to I guess the people who just settle down, like you kind of get a sense of people who feel misplaced. They're always welcome in Brighton. So I think that's where that I guess diversity comes from. And
okay.
just yeah, I think mainly through the food, that's where I saw the I guess diverse aspect of it, because I wasn't expecting to see amazing like Argentinian food and as a restaurant in Brighton, or
You gotta
Bangladeshi
like
food.
give me a list so I could send it to my buddies over there.
Yeah, I'll make sure to keep a I've still got a list from my time in Brighton, I think, so I can send it over at some point.
Yeah, because I mean I got a lot of flight attendant friends still, but I start flying again. I know where I'm going. Because I think we just had like some, like some boardwalk type food,
Mm,
but
just on the seafront.
yeah, but I was just like, what? I missed all this stuff,
Yeah.
man. But
Yeah, Brighton's
when
great.
you're doing that, you're just kind of in and out.
Mm,
But now I know for
mm.
next time.
Yeah,
What
it's definitely worth staying for a couple of nights at least. I think just going through the lanes and um, just exploring the nice cocktail bars and things like that.
Have a lot of the places closed since the pandemic started?
Yeah, quite that. Yeah, that's been quite sad actually. Kind of, a lot of places have closed down. This place called this place called Marwood's Coffee House, which is renowned. It was like the renowned of Brighton because it was, I think I don't know if it was one of the oldest, but it was just really clunky, like vintage decor inside, and it was really lovely, and loads of people loved it. It was like adored by the Brighton community, and it had to close because, as you said, restaurants and coffee shops are run on really fine margins, so it's really difficult. It was really difficult for them, I think. But So yeah, because it's really saddening because probably same with the US, the UK, the hospitality industry is one of the biggest industries, and the lack of support shows, and it's not something that we can do at the moment. We just have to wait for what the government wants to do.
When you were working in the restaurants, were you front of the house or back of the house?
I was a bit of everything. So throughout my first couple of years, I was back of house, and then it was kind of just wherever I was needed. Yeah. Essentially, that's like if they're lacking in a department, then I'll go help with that department. But it was quite a nice, flexible team that we had.
What are some things that you didn't expect to learn in the kitchen?
A thick skin, that's probably the biggest thing I've developed. Discipline. I mean, aside from all the personality traits that you get from learning in a restaurant, I think just repetition of the specific stuff, and I don't know, just like the traditional stuff of how to cut certain stuff, vegetables and things like that. That was something that I learned, like how something as simple as how to cut an onion, and which obviously I was doing wrong throughout my teenage years, but I finally learned how to actually properly cut an onion, and just simple cooking techniques, things like that. And also, actually, the biggest thing was probably storage, like how to store your items in the fridge in specific ways. That's like key. Like I'm super OCD about that now. Like I have to have it in like labeled and specific products.
Label date, refrigerate.
Yeah.
And first in, first out.
Yeah.
And you gotta ready to eat on top. And then basically it's just like ready to eat to like the most dangerous things, like to the bottom, like the raw meats and stuff like that. But that's sanitation 101.
Yeah.
So those must be. I'm glad to hear that you learned that in the places you worked, because then I can.
Yeah, sanitation is a big one, especially in Japanese restaurants with, raw fish and stuff like that. Has to be.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it has to be very.
How do you feel about raw fish now? I just watched this documentary called
Seaspiracy.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it yet. I saw eating fish is not my second love, so, but I have to watch it soon. What did you think of it?
I've eaten fish since then, but I felt bad about it. I was like, oh, okay. Like, don't have sushi plan on sushi for dinner.
Oh no.
Yeah. But I'm also like, part of me is like, I want to fact check this just because like I don't want to believe it. But like in my heart, I'm like, this is definitely true.
Yeah. It's hard. Do you find it difficult to like, as like food people, or people who love food, you finding the line or balance between maybe not feeling guilty, but eating meat at some point is considered maybe harmful towards the environment, and so is there something in the back of your mind where you're like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or like maybe there's some sense of,
I mean, when it comes
for me, I'm just asking for me, because for me sometimes there is, when I'm like cooking a piece of meat, I'm like, I know this is bad for the environment, but
the thing is, like, I think bad for those fucking vegans, man. But I think my interpretation of eating meat is not that it's bad for you. My interpretation of it, or not bad for you, not it's not bad for the environment, that in the sense that the thing, I think the problem is people, if you stop eating meat, right? That it's not going to hurt that factory farm. It's not, because there's so many people that they don't have like the finances to care, right? So talking about fast food, like if I can feed my family for, a couple dollars at McDonald's, I don't care where the food is coming from, because I need to eat food, and when we, especially even with the vegans, like I love vegetables, love them, but if we're going to talk about not eating meat, let's also address monocultures, so it's not really what we're eating that's bad for the environment, it's how we're raising it, and it's how we're getting it. And I think your dollar is put to better use, not by, because if you're say you're vegan, right? And you're taking your dollars away from making the meat, in the factory farms, but then you're giving it to the industrial vegetable system, So I think the best thing to do is to look for sources of, like you can raise animals in a way that's actually great for farming, because for instance, like you can get chickens from a small farm that actually, like they also grow vegetables. And those chickens, they'll scratch the earth, they get the eggs from them. Where you get your eggs is really important too. And then, they poop on the earth, and then that fertilizes the ground, and they rotate their crops and their animals. So if you can support a smaller farm instead of like this giant system where it's just like a warehouse of chickens on top of each other, you're doing better, because you're not, your dollar is your vote, basically. So you're voting for a sustainable way of farming rather than an industrialized way that
corporate
waste.
Style.
So I think, some people are vegan for the health benefits or whatever. And I say health because, all these studies, there's a lot of people that like, it is healthier for them. I think like depending on your genetics, I think there's a smaller group of people than people like to admit, that maybe being a vegan is good for them. But for most people, you need both,
Yeah.
So, and I also think just the amount of, like, you don't need to eat meat every day, you don't. Meat, we went from this thing where like meat was like a special occasion type thing, to like people eating meat every day, when maybe you're lucky if you ate meat once a month or something, back in the day when you had the small family farm and you had to go kill a chicken, So if we can find a way to, and also I think about it too, and instead of having these giant industrial farms, that where is all that money going? Is it going back to the people? If we could have a lot of smaller farms, we would create an economy of small farmers.
Just localizing most of it.
Yeah, and that would cost more. Raise the prices of the food, but we'd have better quality of food. So maybe, I don't know, maybe our healthcare costs would go down. So, and you also get the greater, one thing that I love about gardening is being able to grow like really weird varieties of vegetables that, get to see in the grocery store. So if we have smaller farms, we can also attack that monoculture problem,
Yeah,
So
for sure. I think that's one thing that is like key, is to have some element of like self-sustainability where people grow some vegetables in their garden and things like that, and it just makes you feel better when you kind of grow when you grow like some tomatoes or like grow some fresh herbs that you have in your garden, and then you kind of pick them out. It's like, oh, like, you know, I could just nip out to the garden and pick some rosemary or basil that I've grown.
yeah, I'm growing it. I mean, I live in an apartment, so I have a little like patio, but I have like 4 storage bins. Because that's the other thing. Like some of this stuff is like expensive for no reason. Like a planter that's that big is like $300, but I got
Oh
like a
god.
storage bin, and I'm talking about like a plastic one too.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about like obviously you have to make sure the storage bins are like BPA free and stuff like that. But I got a storage bin for like $10. So if you drill holes in the bottom of it, you have a planter. So I have like 4 of those on my porch or whatever, and I mean I have all the herbs. The tomatoes are coming in because it's Florida, so it's tomato season right now. But yesterday, my first sunflower it opened, and I was like,
oh really?
I didn't expect to be so excited about it. And I didn't like I never grew sunflowers before, but they have all the petals, but they like open like a little bit at a time.
Oh,
So
I had no idea.
yeah, I didn't know. I thought it was just kind of be like, oh, now I'm a sunflower. So like I'm watching it, like one day it's like one petal is up, and then like it's just slowly like opening. And yesterday it was like, I'm a sunflower. So it's really exciting. So and they're so big. My I really did it to like when I started growing plants on my porch. We have a HOA, which is basically like an association that'll they take care of like the garbage and like the landscaping and stuff. But they have like a bunch of rules of like arbitrary rules that you can't do this, you can or whatever. So I had a shelf on there with some plants on it when I first started, because you're not allowed to drill into the ceiling of like the porch because there's someone like on top of you,
I see. Yeah.
or into the walls or anything. So I was like, all right, well, I want to use my vertical space so I could get the most
As much.
plants on here.
Yeah.
And they're like, a shelf isn't patio furniture. And I was like, well, it's furniture and it's not a patio, so isn't it a patio furniture? And so they were trying to fine me like $75 a day. And I was like, are you
You're just ignoring it.
Yeah. So finally I took the shelf down, but then I made like these giant bins. Like, and then she tried to like, those aren't planters. I'm like, well, because I was just like,
you had enough.
I was so mad. So, because she would come like I'd be on my porch. Like the first time she said something, I was like, I had my friend over and I was literally like showing him the garden. And I was like, this is my sage, this is my rosemary. Like, so excited about it. And we're having like made like little champagne cocktails or hanging out. And she like comes around the bushes and she's like, you can't have that there. And I was like, excuse me? Like, what? So, and like I'm right where like everyone has to go get their mail and their laundry and stuff. So like everyone sees my patio. So she's picking on me, but she's not looking at anybody else's because she's too lazy to go and look at everybody else's stuff. So
but then it's only plants, and you wouldn't think it's that much of an issue. Exactly.
So I was like, all right, what can I do to just be like the most? So just over the shelf. So I had the bins, and then I created like teepee trellises out of bamboo sticks.
Yeah.
And so like everything can grow up then. So then I was like, sunflowers. Just to be like super tall and obnoxious. But it's nice though, because a lot of the kids are coming around, and like I saw like this little girl the other day, and she was like, whoa, like she saw the sunflower, she's like, whoa, to her mom, and her mom's like, but she's never seen a sunflower before. So
yeah.
or
So
like,
surely they would appreciate that if people are going past and they're admiring the great kind of plantery that they have in the building, rather than complaining that it's breaking the rules.
yeah. So, but whatever. I'm like, gotcha. But it also shows like in a small space you can still grow a lot of food.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just being efficient with kind of the space you have.
Yeah, and vertical space is like everything.
Mm.
I think in a small, like when you're in a small space. So especially when you're trying to get back at the HOA lady. But so, do you have a garden over there?
Yeah, so I'm currently living with my grandparents at the moment, but they've got a lovely garden. They absolutely love their garden, so they tend to it every day almost, as much as they can. They'll get me, and I'll go out with them and help them with whatever their needs are. But they have tons of beautiful plum trees and pear trees, things like that are growing at the moment.
Are there any Japanese vegetables that you're growing?
We do have a yuzu plant growing, which have sprouted a few, like the yuzu, like citrus. I just call them yuzu because I'm not sure I guess they are called yuzu in English, but they're just like orange type citrus fruits.
Why do I think that's an alcohol?
You've probably seen it as like yuzu juice or something that goes with a cocktail potentially.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's a mix between like a lemon and an orange. And we've been trying to grow this yuzu plant for about 3 years because it needs the like consistent temperature and it's really difficult to grow. So finally, when we had a couple yuzus growing on it, it was just like hallelujah. Like we were so happy, like overwhelmingly happy. But yeah, that's the only Japanese plant we have at the moment.
One of the things I want to try to grow is the giant radishes.
Oh, the daikon, like the muli, I think, or
yeah,
white, white ones, yeah.
But I don't know if I can. I could probably do it in a container.
I reckon.
A lot of space.
Yeah, daikon's great. You can like grate it and put it in curries, everything.
Oh, I love pickled radishes.
Yeah, pickle radish. That and like kimchi and anything. To be honest, anything pickled, I absolutely love.
What's your favorite pickle?
It's probably kimchi. I made like a batch of it a couple of days ago. But yeah, it's probably just like a fermented, spicy, sweet and sour cabbage, similar to like sauerkraut.
That's Korean.
Yes, it's Korean. Yeah.
I won't tell the Japanese people who make Korean.
Yeah, we're not very friendly with Koreans and the Japanese. No, but
that's why people, we have no idea about that. It's like when in America, like kind of like the like the ignorant American stereotype is like Spanish people are Mexican type thing.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, like I remember trying to explain to someone that like they're like within like South America, like there's there's a lot of like
different countries.
like like Japanese people don't like Korean people, or
Yeah.
there's like Ecuadorian people don't like Peruvian people, or something like that.
Mm.
Like, just like whatever happened in their history, So,
Exactly. Yeah. Just a bit of tension. It's not super serious now, but yeah, there's a little bit of history. Yeah.
So, but we don't learn any of that in school. So
No. Same over here.
they just
It was
go, "Oh, you're Asian." Oh no. Oh no.
I find it quite funny when people try to like guess my nationality, but just don't tell them, because then they just get even more puzzled and even more confused as to where I'm actually from. That's kind of the thing. So when
Where
people ask,
I grew up, we had a lot of people that were part. They were. I mean, I don't know if this is a derogatory term, but we used to call them the Moonies. They were part of the unification movement with it's basically it's a cult, really. It's like the Reverend. It was basically like this guy, Reverend Moon. I think he's not even allowed in the United States anymore because of tax evasion.
really,
but he basically like invented this religion, I think, where he he's like the Messiah or whatever,
yeah,
and for some reason in the town I grew up in, they were just it was everyone was half white and half Japanese. Like that was the I don't know if that was part of
the
the religion
demographic,
or what
yeah,
happened, but it was just crazy because like they were some of the most like beautiful people that I've like ever seen. I was like, I'd never be like, what are you? But it's just like, all right, Japanese and white. But or it was either, but it would go the other way. They were either like super funny looking or like super pretty. There's no in between. But you got the pretty side, so you're okay.
Oh, thanks.
But yeah, it was just it was a crazy combination. I remember I went to a friend's house, and that was part of the cult, I guess. But
I need to look into that
it was kind of like the parents were super into it, but like the kids were kind of just like Americanized and whatever and chill. But I remember going to my friend's house, and then they all kind of lived in the same like apartment complex area. And then we went to one of our other friends' houses, and I noticed they had the same picture of like this old guy on their, like this old couple, like on their wall.
Sure.
I was like, oh, I didn't know you guys were cousins. Like you have the same grandparents. Like I didn't know. And they had to like explain to me about like this whole like religion thing, and I was like, oh. And I went home, and then my mom was like, that's a cult. But the food is really good.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Don't worry about them being in a cult. Just enjoy the food.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a, it's not like a violent cult. It was just kind of like a take all your money cult, I guess.
I need to learn more about. I don't know about the Moonies.
I thought you were gonna be like, I'm in it. I was like, uh-oh. I'm like looking at these pictures. I'm like, do I see any of those old people on the wall? No, just
there's one just behind the computer that you can't see. I've hidden it.
It's like they had like an altar and stuff in their house where like they prayed to the guy and everything. And I was like, I thought that was just a pretty table. I don't know. But it was it was talk about cultures. There's a lot of diversity. But,
so whereabouts did you grow up?
New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of I mean, where the town I grew up in was like the most prevalent culture is probably like Italian and Irish, but like the Italian kind of just shone through because the food's better. All the
Yeah,
rest
that's fair. Yeah,
are
yeah.
Italian, but the there's a lot of towns like Edgewater is famous for having a lot of like Koreans and like just all kind of Asian people. And they have the H Mart, which is I love the H Mart.
What is H Mart? Is it just a big Asian supermarket?
Yeah, but they have depending on which one you go to, and there's also this other place. I don't know if it's a chain or not, but it's called Mitsuwa, and it's another supermarket, but inside of it, it has like just the way it's set up. It's like very like stations, and it's got a really cool bakery in it, where you can get like red bean pastries, and like they had an ice cream stand for a while where you could get
with like mochi ice cream and
black sesame ice cream, which is really good.
Black sesame ice cream is so good.
Oh my god,
really, really good.
Because I'm not really a matcha fan. I'm not gonna lie. I think I had to make too much matcha. Like it was like a trend for a while, and I got sick of it. I think that's what happened.
Have you had it savory, or have you just had it as ice cream?
The matcha?
Oh, matcha. Sorry, I thought you were saying mochi.
Oh no. Mochi, I like that, but
yeah, okay.
it depends what you get. Like sometimes the like rice outside, the rice paper outside is too like thick, I feel like sometimes you can get it and it's like nice. It's just like a thinner. It's more ice cream than rice. I don't even know what you call that, but I think as like especially as an American, like that kind of gummy isn't really like a texture that we're used to.
Yeah, sure.
So it's not one of my favorite things, but I like the ice cream part.
But yeah, I like matcha. But that's, I think matcha and mochi, that's mainly because I grew up with it, and like I was accustomed to it when I was younger. So I imagine when I first tasted it, I probably didn't like it, but because I just had it over and over, I just ended up liking it. But yeah, matcha's great.
I think I just had it like there was a point in my life where I felt like everything was matcha. Like
matcha coffee, matcha ice cream, matcha dessert, matcha.
Yeah, so much matcha ice cream. Matcha, strawberry, everything. That's what it was. Like everything was like, oh, like it was trendy, and I was just like, done. Bring back chocolate, coffee. Like, but I feel like now if I had it, I'd be like, oh, it would be like,
you'd be all right,
because it would be just sprinkled in there. It wouldn't be.
It wouldn't be lathered in it.
Yeah. Wait, I think that's Korean too. It was just trending. The like whipped coffee.
Whipped coffee. Oh, I think that was Korean.
Yeah,
it's Korean. But then, have you seen the Japanese like souffle pancakes? Like
those. I don't know what it is about the jiggliness that creeps me out, but I want to try it, but it creeps me out.
That was not the reaction I was expecting.
It's cool. It's just the way it jiggles. It's like
I need to get better at making them. Sorry?
Have you made it?
I've made it a couple of times and it hasn't turned out well. Like kind of pancakes and Just pastry isn't not that much of my strong suit. But yeah, I had them in London once, and it's like it's not what you expect. I think that's probably the best way to put it. Because it's almost like it was really fluffy, and it was really light. But I think I preferred it to like traditional crepes and like American pancakes.
When I grew up, I loved pancakes. Like, if you said I was having pancakes for dinner, like, oh my God. But now I'm like, I could eat like 2 bites of pancakes. And I'm like, all right, enough pancakes. But I love waffles, man.
Yeah, waffles are good. Waffles are better than pancakes. I think that's my question.
Yeah, they're so much better. But I think growing up, we kind of just had Eggo waffles. But like a real waffle, and it's the same batter too. So like,
yeah.
Why not make a waffle? You know.
I went to New York about January last year, just on like a solo trip I literally went for food. That was the only reason I decided to go. I had like a list of 20 restaurants. I spent a week there.
Did you get a bagel? Where'd you go?
I went to Noodle Bar, Momofuku. I went to.
What'd you think?
Bar. I really liked it. The bao bun's really nice. But then they're bao buns, so they're going to be delicious. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'd definitely go again. Milk Bar, I went to.
I saw your post about Milk Bar. You got the ice cream, right?
Yeah, the cereal milk ice cream. That was something else.
Dude, I was so disappointed. I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
I was so disappointed when I went. I think, and it wasn't like when I went, I wasn't planning on going. It was just kind of like I walked past it and I was like, I have that cookbook. And I went in there and it was not. I was disappointed. I'm not gonna lie. I think
I was disappointed by their crack pie. I think that's in their cookbook as well, and it was on the chef's table. Like, it just tasted like a flapjack to me.
Yeah, it wasn't. But I was really excited about the ice cream, and they only had one that it was like oat based. I don't remember exactly, but I was just like, it didn't really have any flavor. Like, it wasn't. I didn't feel like it was good, and it was just. I was like, it wasn't worth the hype. I was disappointed, and I was just kind of like. Because, like, you know, and that's the thing, too, that kind of bothers me is that I feel like she's kind of trying to play off nostalgia. And it's not, like, it's not good. I'm like, this isn't good. But I feel like she gets all this press and stuff because she's friends with David Chang.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, like really thinking about it, like if you weren't friends with David Chang and you were just trying to do this like on your own, would you be successful? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah. I guess you're right. Did she work in some, like, I can't remember who she worked for before David Chang, but it was.
She didn't really. She went to the French Culinary Institute, and then she kind of made, like, I think she just made pastries for like places around town type thing. And so she started making pastries for him. But it also goes to show, like, you know, you don't need a pastry chef in a restaurant, but you need a chef. Which, you know, good for her that she got that opportunity. But I just wish there are more opportunities for pastry chefs and women because it's very rare that a woman gets that opportunity in the restaurant industry, which is a bunch of bullshit because
It's the irony, isn't it? It's,
yeah, all these guys are crying about their grandmother's cooking.
yeah.
Invest in a woman to run a restaurant.
Yeah.
Like, get out of here. Get out of here. So good for her, but also, I think she blew up a little bit. Like, stop playing on nostalgia. Let's do something. I mean, nostalgia is like the most profitable.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's why the Oreo has been around for 100 years, but
yeah,
you can do something else. I don't know. Especially the cookies, the dumpster cookies or whatever. The dumpster fire cookies.
Oh, did you try it? What was it like?
It was just like sugar. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like pastries actually that are like overly sweet. I like them to be, I guess, just like a dish. Like, I like it to tell a story, like showcase something,
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're doing, like, I don't like things that are like you're not really doing. Like, a lot of farm to table stuff is like, here's the raw thing, like, do something with it. You're a chef, But at the same time, like, showcase that ingredient,
Yeah.
So like, just putting a bunch of leftover cookies and like more cookie dough basically is not, or like cornflakes or whatever. Like,
it's not that innovative.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm just like, the texture wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. That was supposed to be like the main thing. Like, oh my god, the texture with the cornflakes in it, and I'm like,
But then I think that speaks to, most like trends or like stuff that blows up is that whatever like mochi or like matcha, and you can only have so much until you try it, and then it goes, it doesn't live up to the hype.
I mean, the corn flakes in there, I think, was trying to be like innovative, like, I think she was innovative in the cereal milk part of it, and then she was trying to like continue that. But if you look at something like the cronut, right? That's actually not just because he didn't just deep fry a croissant. He had to, like, it's obvious he made a bunch of iterations of it,
Yeah.
Just the way he shapes it is really important. So, and he like, perfected it and got it down,
Yeah.
Which I think that's probably something that is trendy, but I think it's not going anywhere. Like, I don't think like 30 years from now, I don't think we're going to think about the cookies that cornflakes into.
Yeah. I get you.
Maybe the cereal milk ice cream will stick around.
I think that will stay. I remember that was just pure nostalgia with the cornflakes on the side.
Yeah.
Where else did I go in New York? I went to Essa Bagel. Joe's Pizza. Bunch of places in Chinatown. Yeah, Chinatown's amazing. Loved it there. Where else did I go? Xi'an Famous Foods. That was big one. Xi'an Famous Foods. Like Xi'an is Chinese cuisine.
Oh, maybe I went there. I've been a lot of places in Chinatown, and I just don't know what it was now.
I think it's a chain in New York now. The Xi'an, Anthony Bourdain was very fond of them. They do like a cumin lamb burger.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, first day I went to New York, I was like, obviously I was only there for a week, so I don't know what living in New York is like, but I could live there forever.
Oh yeah, good.
Yeah.
I don't know about during the pandemic, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but not during the I remember when I was flying, originally I was a JFK based flight attendant,
Mhm.
and then I transferred to Fort Lauderdale. But then I would get some layovers in JFK, and they'd
Mm.
only be like 18 hours or something, like
Yeah.
short. But so it wasn't long enough to go back to New Jersey, really,
Mhm.
but it was long enough to go out to lunch with my JFK base friends. So, they lived in the city, so I would go visit them, and they would just take me around. Like, it was great because my friend Shuyi is Chinese,
Mm.
and then my friend Carol is Puerto Rican. So like between the both of them, like they got the city covered. Like,
They knew the best places, or what
yeah, and
like could
then,
enjoy.
they're both
Yeah.
like American too, so
Mm.
it's just like all the best places. It was so
Yeah.
good. And anywhere like, I'd be like, if I knew I was going, I'd be like researching like the whole week before. Like, where are we
Just
gonna
looking
eat?
at the menus, stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh my god, it was so good. It's so good. We went to like, there was this one ice cream place we went to, and I can't remember the name of it. It sounded like German or something, but it was like the best. And then they took me to like the oldest Italian bakery in the city. I forgot,
Oh wow.
but it was like, it was just so cool, like stuff like that.
Mm.
But and a couple of the Asian bakeries. There was like this bread that we had that was really good. Where else did you go?
Um, I loved Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn was really cool.
Yeah,
But
hipster.
yeah, it is the hipster in me. Well, so I stayed like near Harlem area, I think, for the week. Or like on the upper
Did you
west
get
side
any
area.
soul food?
Yes, I did. I think so. Yeah, I think I did. I can't
Collard
remember.
greens, chicken.
I had some southern fried. I don't know. Well, I had southern fried chicken. I think. I had some fried chicken. I'm not entirely sure what soul food is exactly. I think.
Um, I mean, I get a lot of it originated in the South, so but it's
Mm.
it's basically like the food of Black culture, especially
Okay.
in Harlem.
Yeah.
Um, Harlem has some of the best soul food in the North area.
Mm.
I'm sure because I don't think you could say
Mm.
in the country because then the people in the South will get mad at you.
Yeah.
But um, it's definitely a hub. I mean, especially not just food, but art and
Mm.
history and music.
Yeah.
Harlem is a big deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and comedy too. So
Yeah. We went to a lot of stand-up shows around New York. I didn't realize how kind of big comedy is. Just like within New York, like every bar almost we went to had a stand-up.
oh yeah, comedy,
Thing.
like stand-up comedy is very American. Like
Mm. Yeah. That's something that surprised me actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I was born up there. Like I remember after my like junior prom, like we went to New York City to see a comedy
Mm.
show. Like because it's one of the things you can get into sometimes without being 21,
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I love going to see stand-up comedy. It's so fun. Who's your favorite comedian?
Favorite comedian? Um, Good question. I haven't watched stand-up comedy for a while. There's one on the Asian guy on Netflix. I can't remember his name, but I like him because his stuff's very relatable. Let
The one that the recent one with he works with Trevor Noah.
Ronnie Chang.
Yeah, he's with Trevor Noah too, right?
Yeah, him. Yeah, I quite like him.
Angry. He yells a lot.
Yeah.
No, he's funny though. He's good.
Yeah. I don't know if you call Hassan Minhaj a stand-up comic, but I really like him.
I really like him. I'm wondering why his show isn't on Netflix anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It was a really good show. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, that student loan debt one, I was like, they're really good shows. And
yeah.
Then, he disappeared. I don't know. He had like 2 shows in the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
I hope he comes back. I used to watch that every week.
Yeah. Who's your favorite stand-up?
I mean, I think you can't talk about comedy without talking about Dave Chappelle. Like,
okay, yeah, I forgot about him. He's like, yeah, he's like the god. He's like the top tier.
Yeah, he's probably my favorite, but there's just a lot of good ones.
Yeah,
I like just watching people like I don't know. You know what I mean? I think one of my favorite bits that I saw recently was Sebastian something Maniscalco, and he does this bit about somebody like ringing the doorbell like now versus like back in the day, like back when I was growing up in like the 90s. It's just, I don't want to read it, but it's just really funny. Like I think he got famous off of it. I think he did it, like it went viral on the internet.
Okay. Is it show on Netflix or? I
think he has a special on Netflix now, but I don't know. I don't think that bit is in there. I think it's older, but I just remember seeing that. It was so funny. And of course, I really like Tiffany Haddish. I think she's hilarious.
She's brilliant.
She's so funny.
I think Dave Chappelle's gotten to a point where he doesn't have to make stuff funny to talk about insightful conversation, and like you can just be on a stage and just talk and people will listen, which I think is rare. Yeah,
that's cool. I saw the but I think when he's talking he's funny anyway,
Yeah, exactly.
He's just funny. He doesn't know how not to be funny. So, but yeah, there's so many good comedians. I mean, you need that though. So
yeah.
You ever want to do stand-up comedy yourself?
I don't know. Thing is, I'd say yes, but I don't think I'm funny enough, and I think stand-up's probably one of the hardest things you can do. It's like to put yourself out there and like just not be too like worried about what people are going to say and what people are going to think of you, and just to, I think it's one of the hardest and like things to do, and like I commend anyone who attempts it or is doing it.
And I think it'd be harder now too because everyone's got like a cell phone.
Yeah.
Can record you me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I would do it back in the days of no cell phones. Maybe I would try it out.
Yeah. Now it's just everyone records everything. Yeah,
I mean, they even have like at some of the comedy shows they like try to take everybody's cell phone. They try to like put it.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Bags and stuff, but
people find a way.
Doesn't work.
Yeah.
So back to food.
Yes. Yeah.
So what, you focus a lot on Japanese food. Is there anything about English food that baffles Japanese people?
That's a good question. That's something I haven't really thought about. I think potatoes, the use of potatoes, which might sound weird, but like British people use potatoes like all the time, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I think that's something that Japanese people maybe like, why do they do that? But I don't think there's anything that stands out where like, oh, that's kind of weird. That's specifically what we wouldn't do. Yeah, I don't think there is that much.
Yeah, the Japanese, like when it comes to cooking, are very their technique is so good, but also they're very good at adapting. Like if you give them a potato, they'd be like, and then like a week later, they can make like 7 things out of it. Like,
yeah, it'd be like a 9-course meal with just potatoes.
And that's actually one of the so 2 things. So one thing, when I was in pastry school, there's a there's like an Olympics for cooking.
Okay.
Okay.
I haven't heard of this.
But in pastry, there's kind of like 2 sections. There's pastries, and maybe there's 3. There might be boulangerie pastries. Boulangerie would be like croissants and laminated doughs. But then there's bread, right?
Yeah.
And like the French would win. Sometimes America would win. But it was always like the European-based countries that would win.
Yeah.
And when I was in pastry school, all of a sudden the Japanese came out of nowhere and they won. They like filmed it. They played like the DVD or whatever in school. And there's specifically where they excelled a lot was in the bread sculpture. You can make pretty amazing sculptures out of bread. And they made this cherry blossom tree with like a bridge and over like
wow.
It was insane. And it just when it comes to bread, it's very hard to make things look delicate, but then have the structure like hold up,
Yeah.
And that's just something like the Japanese team excelled at. Like the flowers looked real and everything. It's crazy. And there's a lot of rules when it comes to the competition. Like you can't use dyes that are not edible or like not like natural. Like you have to use you basically have to use like spices and stuff to like dye everything. And they were getting like these like like nice pinks and stuff, like cherry blossom colors. Yeah, they were figuring all that stuff out, and they just ever since they won like that one, they've been like undefeated since. So it's been like pretty crazy, but it's they just figure it out. They work hard, they figure it out. They keep going.
That speaks to like the Japanese, I guess, way of doing things. Is like they'll find something to do, and then they'll just perfect it, or like will try and not out of like competition maybe, but just because they want to. If they put their mind to something, they'll do it to the best of their ability, and they'll have that endless suit of like perfection, which is like just, I don't know, it's just like almost unmatched in a way.
Well, I find that because another Japanese thing that I'm really into is jujitsu.
Okay.
And that started really in Japan as the form of the samurai. But I found when the Japanese went and tried to colonize Brazil, that's how it became Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And the Gracie family, figured that out. But I feel like the one thing that kind of butts heads with the innovation of the Japanese people, and in most cultures is tradition, right? Like in one of the things in jujitsu that kind of put them behind a lot was the when they first started the art, you know, people were wearing armor. They were wearing like samurai armor.
Yeah.
So it went from being, but then like obviously now nobody's wearing that, right?
That'd be too expensive. Just to
yeah, it's expensive, bulky.
Yeah.
You can't move around as well. Like
it's not practical, really.
It's not practical. You know, nobody's fighting with a sword really, so so you don't have to worry about that. But when I went to Brazil, then they're taking we're not doing that. We're going to strip away the armor. But I think there was a disconnect between doing something efficient and doing something traditional, and also in the Japanese, like the way it's taught too. I feel like it's kind of a pro and a con. I mean, they would do a lot of like the katas and stuff where you're just kind of like, oh, which not great. But the thing that they lost, I think, in some of the teaching was the mentality of it, you know, being mentally strong, which I see coming back more. You know, now people are going back into meditation, but we're losing, you know, we're losing the katas, which is, I think it's fine. But they're bringing back the meditation. But for a while there was, you know, kind of like in jiu-jitsu, if you're super like aggressive, a lot of the times like if you're fighting emotionally, basically you're gonna lose because you're gonna make mistakes and all that other stuff. But then even with my cousins too, you know, they're talking about how they can't show tattoos and stuff in Japan.
So that's how one way Japan's very traditional is that if you want to go to like an onsen or like hot springs in Japan, you can't have tattoos because it's a sign of I get maybe dirty is not the right word, but just like you're
trash.
it's reminiscent of like, I guess people would say like the Yakuza, like not that you're associated with them, but it's more that a lot of the supposed Yakuza have like tattoos and things like that. So it's just seen as unclean almost, which I think is it's just. I mean, they're okay to have their traditions, but I think that's one thing that has to be moved on and like just changed because I think that's not right with the times.
You have any tattoos?
No, I do not.
There we go.
Yeah.
But in the United States too, there was like when I was a kid, and more so when my parents were kids, if you had tattoos, you were either in the military, and they were specifically like military tattoos, like there was kind of like a specific style, or you were a criminal, one or the other. It's kind of funny that both sides had tattoos.
Yeah.
But I would, you know, it kind of sounds like Japan's in the 50s in that aspect where they still think that way. But, you know, I feel like if they don't let tradition get in the way of their innovation, like there's no stopping them, pretty much.
Yeah. Very true.
You've ever been to, I went to, even in Thailand, I went to this, just when it comes to like innovations in food, like there was I think it was like a Japanese machine, but it was in Thailand for ramen at like a 7-Eleven where like
like a vending machine type of thing for ramen.
Yeah, like the vending machine technology in Asia is like
it's insane. It's There's
Like,
a
talk
there's a
about food
restaurant.
waste. Like, if we could figure out how to do that without the food waste part, like,
Yeah, I mean, but then what kind of environment would that be? Just having like going into a restaurant and there's just like 10 vending machines and like a robot serving you. Because there is one of those in Japan where it's like you go into the restaurant, there's no one to serve you, but there's like a machine that you can like tap your options, and then the robot will move to the vending machine and drop the pizza, or a specific dish. Yeah, it's crazy. Like,
I mean, but I feel like even with like McDonald's, like going over to, I think it was in Spain, and we had a layover for like, like 15 hours or something like that. And when you get off a long flight like that, you just want to go to bed. But the hotel was like in the middle of nowhere. And the only thing that was open was like this McDonald's across the parking lot. And it was all giant touchscreens, like giant touchscreens.
yeah.
And we didn't have that in the United States. I've seen a couple now, but and you're getting, one of the things that scares me about that is, we're talking about the restaurant industry being the third largest employer of people in the country. So we're losing jobs,
Yeah.
like people can't make an income if there's no waiters,
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, we've got tons of those, and I think every McDonald's I've seen in the UK has those massive touchscreen.
And you can get beer, which is crazy.
Yeah, I think that's specific to Spain. I don't think that. Yeah, UK can't get that.
You can get beer. It's like, well, you got beer and a burger, but it's also like cleaner. Like they don't allow certain things in their food. It's more expensive, but it's like cleaner in a way because it's like, especially even in Norway, like a Happy Meal, like not a Happy Meal, like a Big Mac, like whatever, is $30.
$30, wow.
Because it's so.
Is it made out of Wagyu or something?
I know, but it's just they don't allow shit. It doesn't taste good because it doesn't taste dirty enough.
Yeah, I get that.
But that's the one thing that scares me the most, is that it's going to put a lot of people out of work, and it's not like, it's. I mean, there was like a thing in the United States where there were basically, there's older guys in like their 50s and 60s who were working in like the mines, right? And then all these millennials were like, well, just learn how to code, you got shut down.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be jobs. Like, it only takes, even if you did learn how to code, right, and you got replaced by this machine, you don't need one human per machine to fix the machines. You need one human per 100, or not even, who knows, they could probably just fix the whole entire program, just one human. So you still don't have the same proportion of work for the people that lost their jobs.
Everything's being automated to the point where there are just going to be a lack of jobs.
So I mean, then comes in the question, like, do we do universal income? Do we do?
I say survival of the fittest. No.
I don't know, but I don't think that I don't think it's going to be the fittest. I think it's going to be the the people that already started well off.
Yeah.
If it was survival of the fittest, like, it would be different. But I don't think, there's not going to really be a middle class. There's going to be the people that make the money off all the algorithms and the robots. And then there's going to be the people that don't, like the wealth income gap is going to be even bigger than it is today,
Yeah, I know it's growing. Yeah.
So, but it all relates back to food, which is crazy.
Yeah, it is.
You seem worried about the future.
Yeah, I'm having an existential crisis right now, just in my head.
In your head, I can see it in your eyes.
Yeah, I'm slowly breaking down, like the impending doom. No.
Yeah. And you just got out of university.
Yeah. I mean, at least I have, this YouTube channel. That's my hope
I
and
think
glory.
that's great. I think if I regret anything, I should have started a YouTube channel like in high school when I first started.
Yeah, it's true. How long have you been on YouTube for?
Just this year. So,
Okay.
I guess it's a little bit over a year now. I started last March, so
Yeah.
How
are you finding it?
Stressful. I think it would be less stressful if it is fun, but I do want to make money,
Yeah.
So if I didn't have that part of it, it wouldn't be as stressful, but I don't know that I would be so consistent if I didn't have that goal,
Yeah. For sure.
But I also don't think I would have come up with this podcast part. And I think I kind of like doing the podcast more than I like the cooking part.
Just talking to new people. I think, especially with the pandemic, I think something that's important.
But yeah. I mean, I don't get out much. So. And I get to learn, like I've learned a lot just talking to people. And even with like I've got to do like a lot of fun things. Like the interview I did before this was with my high school culinary teacher.
Oh, really?
So it was great to like kind of go back and
like compare notes almost.
Yeah, and also kind of like we're talking about like the future of food and stuff, and like his perspective now that he had me as a student before computers were like a thing, like we were at the infancy of the internet, so we would go to like allrecipes.com and print out like a terrible recipe that is not been fact checked or anything. Like, we want to make this, and then we would go make it, and he would it would come out. It just wouldn't come out because the person who wrote the recipe was like, oh well, I think I used a cup of this, so I'm gonna put a cup, so it was really, and then he's teaching virtually over Zoom now that the pandemic is, and I'm like the stories in that interview were just like, oh my god. But I wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for this. So it's pretty cool. And I'm talking to you, and you're over in England,
Yeah, big UK.
I talked to someone else, and I think they're in Ireland. This couple, and they live on a ship, or not a ship. I mean, like a boat.
Okay.
Ship sounds really big. It's a boat.
like a massive.
Like a sailboat.
Yeah.
So I was talking to them like how to cook on a sailboat.
Wow.
And that was interesting
very cool.
too,
because
they don't have a lot of energy. So because they have to pay for gasoline for like the motor, something they have some gas for cooking, but for the most part, like the one thing they do a lot is they make like stews, and so they'll heat it up on the stove and boil it and cook it. But then like for a stew, you want it to like simmer for a while. So instead of leaving it on the stove on low, they'll
Yeah.
take it's called a wonder bag, and it's like an insulated bag that works as kind of like a slow cooker. It traps all the heat in,
Mm.
and then it'll continue cooking. So a lot of things that they're using thermal energy and
Yeah.
like they have a food processor that instead of plugging it in, it's a hand crank.
Okay. So, oh yeah, I
You
think
know?
I've seen this. Yeah.
Yeah. So you get to like I would never have even thought about a food processor with a hand crank on it, you know. But now I
Yeah.
know like you could get these things and you know, at least you could cook
Yeah.
during a blackout. So
Just
it's
head over
pretty
to their channel.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it's a lot. I wonder how they're doing. They were supposed to go sail around somewhere, but the pandemic happened. They're probably still docked, I would assume.
Yeah.
But because they wanted to go, I can't even remember. It was so long ago. I gotta reach out, but they could leave, but they couldn't get in the country that they were gonna go to because it was like shut down.
Oh
So
yeah, of course. Yeah.
yeah. So you got any travel plans?
Not at the moment. I mean, I was meant to be in Valencia in January because I was meant to move out there for
Where?
Valencia in Spain.
Oh, okay. I couldn't hear you.
It was just for a job, as for like a teaching job, out there.
Is
But
that where the Valencia orange comes from?
yes, it is.
So are you gonna teach Spanish? Sorry. Or
Yeah.
or
Teach English in
teach
Spain.
Japanese? Are you fluent in Japanese?
I wouldn't say fluent because like there's different. I mean, I'd say like I could go to Japan and be fine and hold conversations with people, but I wouldn't say I'm completely fluent because with like kanji and stuff, like with the alphabets, you have two alphabets and then you have kanji, which is the symbols.
I have no
And with
idea. Kanji?
so like kanji, they're like the symbols that you see on most Japanese products and stuff, and then you have the two alphabets.
Oh, okay. All right.
And like
So,
with kanji, there's you like usually the rate of like how much you should know is about 2,000 characters to read the newspaper, and like you learn that from like 5 to all the way up until you're 18. And so I didn't get like the full education in that, so I wouldn't say like.
but you can speak it.
Yeah, I can speak it and I can understand most of it, and like there are some parts that I can read, but I wouldn't say I'm fluent.
Is there like a specific like region that you're like a dialect that you speak or no?
Not really. Well, I lived in Tokyo for most of my life, so kind of that area.
The city boy.
Yeah, I'm a big city boy. Yeah. So yeah, Tokyo was kind of where I spent most of my time in Japan.
That's cool.
Hmm.
How long were you there for?
So I was in Tokyo from the ages of like 5 till 10, and then I went to boarding school in England from like 10 to 13.
How's boarding school? I've never met someone who went to boarding school. Sounds so
I wouldn't recommend it. No. Yeah. It was a strange one because like there are pros and cons to it, because like I became like very independent because of it. Going to board because you're by yourself really and you have to look after yourself in a way. But I think just being under supervision 24/7 and like I don't know, just like having no sense of like freedom, and you're always in like within your school environment, which I don't think is very healthy. I think kind of going to school and like, you know, going home is, I think, quite an important aspect of growing up, because it just takes you out of that environment if needs be. Whereas like if you're in an environment which maybe is toxic or somewhat not good for you, then you don't really have a choice. You kind of just
You
have to
can't go home. When you go home, you're still with the bullies.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of have to get on with it and move on. And there isn't really any. And obviously at that age, you're not really communicating with the people that you go to school with. You kind of just forget about it and move on. It's not I wouldn't say it's the best environment, but you know, I did have gained some great.
It turned out all right, so it wasn't that bad.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
But you know, sometimes I was like, that might be fun to just be. Is it all boys or all girls or?
It was all boys as well.
So
that was,
obviously,
yeah.
co-ed was the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, all boys. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Like to go to a boarding school with all girls, that would be fun. Oh my god.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah.
Sounds
it was just a lot of like just super masculine and like, you know, macho environment kind of thing.
A lot of dick measuring contests, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It must. I never thought about that too. It's probably harder to the food situation. It's all cafeteria food all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't great. I think that's why I love food so much, because like now I know what the taste of like non-cafeteria food is. I'm just like, there's no going back. In a way.
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
Yeah. I mean, it was all right. It wasn't like the worst thing in the world, but it was.
You think is like the level of education better in boarding school there than like public school or whatever?
I think so. I think, yeah, because I think with boarding schools you have great access to like facilities and stuff, which I think is like you know, there is an ongoing debate whether boarding schools and like private schools should be banned, and just having state education completely. But yeah, I think looking back and kind of living in a very liberal place throughout university, you kind of see that going to that school, there is a privilege to it. And
Was it a like religious, like a Catholic school, like a religious?
We went to church like 4 times a week, so probably. But
yeah,
it wasn't.
I would say that's religious.
Yeah, I wouldn't say if it was specifically Catholic, maybe, but yeah, I think it was a religious.
Well, I mean, you're in England, so it's Protestant, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, 3 or 4 times a week. Yeah.
In America, like most of the private schools like that are Catholic schools. Like, you know, well, you don't know, but a lot of them too are. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of boarding schools here. I think like there's a lot of private, but not like you can't send your kid away.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. My parents had enough, and they were like, "Go away."
Go away.
Yeah.
See you on Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, I think that would be fun. I kind of have a you know, I have a twin brother. He wasn't the nicest one. He's gonna get mad if he ever watches this, but it was kind of like living with a bully. so I relate a little bit, but yeah, especially when they're not even related to you. Like,
Yeah.
it'd be tough. And you can't, like, for us, at least we could go, like, I was doing jujitsu all through high school. So I think that was, a great break. But if you're in boarding school, like, you can't even really leave to go do something like that now.
No. Well, I think as well because a lot of the people who went there were like international. So the boarding school was like almost designed for people to stay in on weekends as well. So it wasn't like I don't know, I mean, you could go out on weekends sometimes, but it was you were mainly told to like stay in like on weekends. So like other people don't feel left out and things like that.
Also, you have a building full of minors, so
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
that you're responsible for. So
Yeah.
like, don't go out.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I mean, as much as it wasn't like the best environment, like I was in a privileged position to go there, and like I did, like the facilities they had were ridiculous. But I yeah, I'm aware that I'm quite lucky to go to somewhere like that.
Yeah, but just because you're lucky to go somewhere doesn't mean that there aren't cons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, everybody's experience is different. So, I mean, I was really lucky to go to school where I was talking about this with my teacher. Like, I was really lucky to go to school where I went to school, but while I was there, fucking hated it.
Yeah.
It wasn't the obviously, like, kids are mean. I didn't have a good experience with that, and I had a lot of other things going on at home that like most other kids aren't going through. So to compound that with kids being mean at school, it was just kind of like,
it's like, where do you go almost?
Yeah. So but then when I left and I went to college, I saw how much better prepared I was for the real world. It didn't even feel like the real world because I had already overcome so much in high school that it was easy. But I was also just in the knowledge base that I had. I was, in school, I was an average student. The thing is, like, my mom and my dad were very, they didn't want me to, like, if you got a C plus, I remember the day I got like 1 C plus. And you would have thought that I came home with an F. Like it was like I was trying to hide my report card. Like, anything lower than a B minus, like, don't come home. Like, so, with that mentality kind of instilled in me as a kid when I went to college, like without all the other stress that I had, I was salutatorian. I was top of my class.
Yeah.
So I went from being average to above average just because you're kind of like in like an easier environment. But I was lucky that I had such, not even tough schooling, but I had really good teachers. I had some terrible teachers, but for the most part, people are always talking about like, what's that one teacher that inspired you? I can give you like 5.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, Mr. Huggins was one. I had one teacher, freshman year biology, start, and she was focused. Also, where I grew up, there was a lot of colleges and stuff. Probably like Brighton, but she had worked, I think, for Rutgers for a while, and but she worked on genetics, right? So, like, right now, like, I still read all the news about genetics and all that's where all that is going, and but if I didn't take her class, I would have never been interested in that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And so like when CRISPR came out, which is a technology for gene editing, I was like, I don't know anything about the stock market, but I was like, I bought like, I don't know, like a couple of shares in CRISPR, and they were like $40, and now they're at like, it's gonna be the new Netflix or something, the new Tesla.
Yeah.
I'm holding out, but like, you know, things I learned from her, even like we had like a human physiology class that I was in, which was really interesting, but I didn't realize, also my mom is a nurse practitioner, but so I didn't realize like how much people don't know how their body works, and then they fall for all this, like, that's what people fall for, like these fads, and especially in food, this miracle food that's gonna
change their life,
change your life, make you lose weight, you're gonna look great, you're gonna be healthy, you're gonna have all the
supposed superfood. Yeah,
which is a load of shit, like load of shit. Like, take your acai and shove it up your ass, because like the free radical antioxidant bullshit has been debunked for like maybe 20 years now, like a long time, and they're still teaching free radicals and antioxidants in nutrition, and it's not accurate anymore, you know. So those classes really taught me how to like keep up with science, create even like you know, how to create a hypothesis and test it. You know, people, it really, when you can apply that kind of critical thinking, which is something I don't think people learn in school anymore, and I was lucky to learn that in school, you don't fall for the bullshit as easily, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't think I mean, I'm not immune to falling for bullshit, I'm sure. But I think I have a little bit better filter than most, like, because I don't really, I'm not going to be like, oh, that's true. Like, like if you tell me something like the vegan stuff, like, it's the best diet ever, I'm like, I don't know. Well, let's read some other articles about this, you know?
Yeah.
So, but that was a tangent. Sorry. Yeah. So, is there anything else you want to add? Because it's noon over here. It must be late over there.
Yeah, it's nearly dinner time over here.
What do you eat for dinner?
Well, it's my granddad's birthday party thing tonight, so we've got like a nice like seafood platter type thing with langoustines and prawns and crab. So that'll be really nice.
Don't watch that documentary tonight.
I was gonna say, yeah, I'll watch it after and then feel sorry for myself for the next week.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, oh my god.
I can't eat fish again.
Did you make him a birthday cake or something?
That's coming on Wednesday. Well, as in we're gonna make it on Wednesday because that's when his actual birthday is. But we're just celebrating this weekend for some reason. Oh no, because my brother's coming back to school on Monday. That's why.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we covered everything that I wanted to talk about. And
I wanted to ask you, what went wrong in your souffle pancake?
Oh, the mold that was what went wrong. Like I didn't put like butter or like some grease on the inside, so it just stuck to the mold. And then when I tried to take it out, it just flopped basically. So I have to make it again.
And the one thing with that, I haven't tried it yet, but I feel like the timing of having it cooked all the way through must be tricky. No.
Yeah. I think I did it on a lower heat, like kind of medium low heat, and then just once you put the water in and you let it steam for a bit, then yeah, I think that was where the cooking kind of came through.
All right. Well, you're gonna make a video on it.
Maybe. Yeah, I'll perfect it first, and then I'll make a video on it.
All right. I'll
Thanks.
copy you. No, I'm gonna get that Japanese book though. I'm excited about that.
Definitely worth it.
All right. Well, it's good talking to you, and
Yeah, it was good talking to you. It was nice to meet you.
nice to meet you.
Well,
See you on the internet.
yeah.
All right.